what is a narcissist? If we say the word narcissist, 9 times out of 10, although not so much now that people really understand what narcissism is, but before narcissism became a very widely talked about thing, if you called somebody a narcissist, people would think you're talking about someone that's conceited or self-centered or self-absorbed. That is not what we mean by a narcissist. A narcissist is actually somebody that has learned to stuff down their true self-expression of who they are, and instead takes on a false self-portrayal. They put on a person who isn't really the true person deep down within. And if you get to these people, you soon learn that there is more than meets the eye. You get this kind of weird feeling that this person is not quite bearing off. They're not being vulnerable with you. They're leaving some things out. There's something not there on the surface that you know that there's something lurking underneath. It's not something I can describe any better than that unless you've actually come up close and personal with somebody that has this personality disorder. And it is a bona fide disorder in the DSM book. The one, I believe, was DSM-4 last year or a couple years ago or however long it was. They called the narcissistic personality disorder. At this point, I'm not sure if it's still considered that or if it's considered a social personality disorder, which is very similar. It doesn't mean, oh, well, I don't like being around people. It means that they have characteristics that make them very, superficially charming on the eye, but deep down inside, they are full of rage, they're full of hatred, they're full of anger, vengeance, and all things that are not good and not pleasant to be around once they finally take off their mask and show who they really are. So, a narcissist is somebody that is fake, basically. They have a fake persona that they show to the world. You get up close and personal if you dare, they show you who they truly are. And it's not a pretty picture. And it's not pleasant if you're on the receiving end, let me tell you. This person does this because it's their way of not being seen as the truly defeated individual that they actually are. They do feel like outcasts deep down inside, even though they would deny that if you ask them with every breath in them. They don't like being seen for who they have hid from themselves. They've hidden from themselves that they're an angry person, that they're hateful, that they're jealous, envious, resentful. They instead want to see themselves as this perfect, flawless, successful human being that everybody looks up to. And indeed, they're very good actors and actresses, so they portray themselves in such a way using different tactics so that you admire them, you're in awe of them, you may praise them, you may want to be like them and emulate them in some way, and they love this. This is called narcissistic supply, and they live for this. They live to hear people say, oh man, you are just the best at that, or oh, he's so good looking, or she's just the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, on this planet. They love that. That's all narcissistic supply, and they live for it. They thrive on it because deep down inside, they've stuffed their true personalities and their true feelings down inside so deeply that they almost forgot who they were, and they don't want to remember it. So they put on this false person of who they are. All right. They take the "don't let them see you sweat," that phrase, that what's it called, a cliche, I guess. They take that like to a whole new level, a really extreme level. And in my case, I'm going to give some actual examples in my situation. In my case, a lady named Chris, a pastor's kid, she told me herself that she had always had to have all the answers for the people in her dad's church, and that there was very little time for her to just be a kid. She never wanted to be a kid. In fact, her family actually told me she never really played with toys. She didn't have an interest in dolls. There was nothing fantasy-wise that she did as a child. She didn't fantasize. She only wanted to really, literally cook in her mother's kitchen, clean with real cleaning products. There was no make-believe. There was no childishness, childlikeness to her at all. She always had to, be on top of everything in the church because her parents were both pastors. So she didn't get to be a child. And in fact, her parents told me that they regretted that fact, that basically she turned out to be way too independent as a result of it, and as a result of some other things in her own life, some abuses and things, which made her feel very alone and lonely. So there was very little time for her to actually grow up. She just automatically was like from a baby into this adult person almost. It seemed like overnight almost. She had to be at every church service, present herself in a certain holy light, and eventually become a spiritual leader herself, like her parents were. She learned at a very young age, because of certain family situations, that she needed to be like a mini mother to her siblings, and also grow up very quickly, like I said, and be an adult without ever getting a chance to be a child. So she had to basically take care of herself. She had to take care of her siblings. She had to be the mom. Her mom worked. Her dad had other issues going on. She had to raise herself. This is the perfect child rearing to raise a future narcissist in. Teach a child that they will have no adult to help them make decisions. Expect that child to be almost perfect at all times, in public. Instruct them to seem super knowledgeable and honorable to other people at all times. And voila, instant narcissist. In fact, many pastors' kids and other leaders' children are narcissistic because of this. I'm not saying every single one, but very many of them that I have met and that we've seen on TV portray that narcissistic type of, I don't need anybody type image. I'm going to do this all myself and on my own. All right, so how can you spot a narcissistic person? Be choosy in relationships. Okay, hold on one second. Let me gather my notes a little bit here. They just kind of flipped up on me. All right. So be choosy in relationships. Does the person's actions speak louder? Do the person's actions speak louder than their words? Are they saying one thing and doing another thing entirely? That's really important. That claims to be your friend or somebody that you're interested in for other than a friendship. Is what they're saying what you're getting? Are they promising you things and not fulfilling those promises? Are they saying they're going to pick you up and then suddenly making excuses as to why they can't if something came up? Usually this happens like later on in the narcissistic relationship, not right away, because we have like a love bombing, what we call an idealization effect with a narcissist when you first meet them. I've been studying a lot and talking a lot with people about cults and exposing cults. And on a large scale with a group of people, this is love bombing. But narcissists also have a form of love bombing, which is considered idealization, where basically you are the most important person in the narcissist world, that nobody compares to you, and they indeed make you feel like that, like you are the most important person. And they go from that to eventually devaluing you, discrediting you, and saying they don't understand what they ever saw in you to begin with, so why did they hook up with you? And it makes you feel awful, because when you're being idealized, you feel like, wow, this person just adores me. I must be a really awesome person. And then when they decide that you're not all that because you didn't do their bidding or whatever the case may be, then you feel like lower than the lowest person on the earth. And it's the most awful feeling. It really is. So it's sad when you're the victim of one of these types of people. All right. So how do you spot a narcissistic person? Well, first of all, you need to be choosy in your relationships. Like we said, check their actions. Do they line up with what they're saying? Are they keeping promises? Do they paint a super amazing picture of everything they're going to do for you, but then as time goes on, you don't see any delivery on it? Do they proclaim themselves to have connections that you never actually see? Do they all of a sudden decide that you weren't what they thought you were, like I just said in the beginning, and then they start looking elsewhere. And not only do they look elsewhere, but they rub your nose in it. Oh, you know, this person is so much better for me than you were. Aren't you glad we found that out before we got, you know, a few more years into the relationship? This is a person that you spent all your time with, somebody that you're super close to, that you thought you trusted, that you thought you had this loving relationship with, and now they come up out of the blue and say they found somebody better than you that is more compatible. And aren't you glad that they ditched you for this other person? And no, you're not, because this person has painted themselves in this light that you feel like you're having a great loss losing them, even though you're really not in the end, as we'll find out as I continue talking. So, do you feel used and treated like an object? Do you all of a sudden feel like, man, this person's just like, they've been talking to me, but it seems like they're more interested in my friends than me. Are they just using me to get to my friends and get in with them? Is that what's going on here? If things start feeling icky or iffy, and you need to really look at this, if you start feeling that weird feeling like something isn't right here, then you need to start distancing yourself from this person. If they disappear from your life, good, they did you a huge favor, believe it or not. Let them disappear. If they seem desperate to hold on to you, yet they continue to show odd behaviors that don't feel right, you're either possibly in the company of a person with extreme borderline personality disorder or a narcissist, depending on why they're clinging to you. A borderline, or BPD as it's known, wants to keep you close because they dread losing people and they don't want to be alone. They may just be lacking the know-how of interpersonal relationships. And time might tell with this person. So you can kind of stick it out a little bit longer with them and see if things get better once you sit and talk with them. Because borderlines, if they know what they're doing, they feel bad about it. Narcissists, no, they don't care. They may seem to feel bad about it. They'll even say, well, I apologize. But they won't tell you what they apologize for. They will not own any of the blame, and they won't be specific on what they did wrong. A narcissist will not do that. A borderline may do that. Now, somebody with NPD, on the other hand, wants to own your soul. They want to control you, they want to dominate you and punish you and make you pay for the sins of their forefathers, so to speak, or the relatives that harmed them or the mother that neglected them. So if that's the case, you start feeling like they've turned you almost into this mini child version of themselves, cut it off immediately if this is the suspicion. Don't even stick around if you start feeling really weird in this relationship, because you will know, you will get a warning sign in the meantime. The next step, number 2, observe, don't absorb. Avoid losing objectivity. Keep talking out loud to yourself when you're alone and about what you're experiencing, what this person has been saying versus doing, how you're feeling about things. Look at it honestly, 100%. Don't go with good feelings. Use your good sense, always. If you start seeing the my way or the highway type of attitude with them, or always reverting conversations back to themselves, you're going to want to move away from this person. I had a person in my life at various times who, when I would tell them some great news or something great that was happening to me, they always had to cut me off and begin almost competing with me about how their great thing was even better. It got to the point that conversations were just all about this person, and I felt like it wasn't fun to share anything else, so I ended the relationship with no regret. Of course, when I confronted this person originally, when I first saw it happening, they couldn't see or admit that they did this constantly. That's another thing about people with this disorder. They refuse to see or admit that they have it, or that they show any signs of it. It's all, oh, well, you're misinterpreting that. Oh, that's not what I did. That's not what I meant. This is what I meant. And you know darn well that they're doing this because they want to one-up you. And it's extremely uncomfortable to be friends with somebody like that. So like I said, I cut it off, no regrets. Number 3, unreasonable, ridiculous demands. This person often has the don't do as I do as I say without question type of attitude. It was this way with Chris, the lady I was telling you about earlier. She could mistreat me in any way she wanted, but I was not allowed to question how she was acting, or she would begin playing the martyr. She'd say things like, See, you don't understand me either. Then the Punisher. I can just end things right now with you. Is that what you want? Then the Guilt Tripper. You should feel very privileged. I usually don't hang out with people who look like you. This is truly pathological behavior and can be joined to passive-aggressive actions in which you are subtly given digs by the narcissist in public. Let me show you what a dig looks like by a narcissist in public. Here's an example. You're at a party and you're talking with people, and the narcissist says something like, yeah, she didn't realize this was a formal party. Gotta pity her though. She dressed as good as she could afford. That's what they say about you. That's just a fake example, but you get the gist. When someone treats you that disrespectfully, it is they who do not deserve you, not the other way around. They are no prize to be had by you, nor endured by you. See things that way, and you won't be sucked in by these people.
I'm recording. What?
Realize that narcissists rarely, if ever, change. And if they are going to, it's not likely going to happen when you are around them to keep them entertained and supplied with narcissistic supply. So what do I mean by this? We touched on it a little bit earlier. If you're going to beg and plead with them about how they don't treat you right and how you love them and how could they do all these terrible things to you, you are giving them exactly what keeps them fueled up to feed you more torment. Fuel for the fire of their disdain of you and pretend love for you. I actually confronted Chris at one point with actual material, which told the story about a woman who did the same things to her friend, which Chris was doing to me. I then told her, Chris, I think because of how you were raised and the abuses you went through, and you had to be all independent and grown up and everything too soon, and you learned to hold in your emotions and be unemotional, that you could have possible narcissistic traits. Her reaction, which is typical of narcissists, mind you. What? How dare you call me a narcissist? Would a narcissist go over and beyond for you like I did? Would they help you how I did? No, Laura, you are the narcissist if anyone is one. I may have a problem, but I am definitely not that. You are so wrong. I can't believe you would even say that about me. Well, I see where I stand with you now. Thank you for opening my eyes about how you really felt all along, and I thought you really loved me. I see now. Nope, it's not you, it's me. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am a narcissist. So then let me ask you this. If this is true, if I really am this, why would you even want to stay with me? If you were like this awful psychopathic person like you're describing me, I sure wouldn't want anything to do with you. So why have you stayed all this time with me if I'm so bad and you believe this is all true about me? So, see how it was put back onto me, as if something was then wrong with me because I was associating with her still? There was no examination of her actions, no true remorse of the past abuses of 3 years. It was an immediate defense and then almost a sort of self-incrimination of herself until she switched it to sort of a pseudo-blaming of me for being with her. The last thing Chris said was, okay, fine. Since this is the way you really feel, then I guess you've made your mind up. It's over. When I said, no, I'd really like to help her, I'd still like to be her friend, I still loved her, I still cared about her, her response was, I don't think I can stay with someone who sees me in this light. You were clear on what you said about me. That was very clear to me. My entire ministry was in pointing people towards their greatness, and now you've said that basically everything I've done was all a lie, and I'm a liar. I don't deserve to be with or around or teaching anyone anymore. I'm going to go and do some real soul searching. And I imagine she did whatever people like that do to search their souls. This, of course, left me feeling like a real louse for having done this to her. Obviously, she was not able nor willing to really look into or do anything about what I shared with her. Needless to say, the relationship ended soon after that with me, feeling like I was insane and hopeless. The scenario may not always go this way, but for me, that's pretty much how it was at one point. Number 5, keep in mind that you have human rights, and you also have the right to insist on them being honored, or you have the right to leave a situation in which they're being violated or disregarded. So what are your human rights? And these are just some of very many human rights that you have. Respect is one of them. You have the right to be respected, treated with dignity and respect, not spoken to like you are slime or an object or just there for someone's pleasure or to do their bidding. You have the right to have views that are different from somebody, beliefs that are different, things that you want to do that differ from people. You have the right to have wants and things that you would like in your life. You have the right to have your own money and your own things. You have the right to have your needs met, to have food, to have clothes, to have fresh air and sunshine, to have exercise, to be able to get out the door when you want to without somebody interrogating you or demanding that you take your cell phone so they can check up on you every 5 minutes to make sure that you're not looking at somebody the wrong way or getting into some sort of trouble and making them look bad. You have a right to make plans apart from anybody else and deciding to go places and do things that you want to do. You have the right to say no without fear of being guilted into changing your mind. You have the right to reciprocation, that if you give something nice to somebody, they do something nice in return, and expecting that to an extent. I'm not saying always give expecting in return, but there's a balance there, and you have to find that balance. And if you can't have any balance with that, and you feel like you're doing all the giving, or if somebody's doing all the giving to you, then that's out of balance, and that needs to change or end. You have the right to self-care. You have the right, like I said, to eat, to exercise, and all those things that help you take care of yourself. You have the right to think good about yourself and not constantly go around feeling like a victim and feeling like you're worthless. You have the right to self-preservation and safety. You have the right to lock your door at night. There's a person in my life that I was with at one point that would not let me lock the doors. His theory was it only keeps the honest man honest. In other words, if somebody wants to break in, they're going to get in another way. Well, locking a door makes a person feel secure sometimes, and that was my security, and he took that from me. And if I said I demanded that the door be locked, I was made fun of and mocked and told, oh, you're such a wimp, you're afraid of your own shadow, that kind of stuff. And I had the right to that safety and that feeling of security, and so do you. You have the right to communicate confidently with people, to be able to speak what's on your mind and not worry about somebody getting all, hurt over every little thing you say. I'm not saying go around hurting people with what you say, but keep it in balance. You should be able to say things without people flipping out over it. And some people that have mental disorders other than narcissism really do tend to take things to heart way more than people that don't have those disorders, and it makes it kind of tricky sometimes. But you have a right to speak your mind. So, if you must deal with a narcissist, you need to be assertive. If you show that you're undecided, wishy-washy, shy, uncertain, hesitant, they will sense that chink in your armor and jump right on it. Take some courses in assertiveness training or breaking codependency. Watch my videos about helpful topics like that. It'll get you away from looking and feeling like a victim, and also remove yourself physically from the abuser as necessary. For me, my own abuse did not end until I learned to love and trust myself and really enjoy being alone with myself sometimes. I had to learn who I was, what I believed, and that I would not be shaken from. I had to learn to say no to certain people and relationships, or sometimes if I was already in them, to say stop and end things. Number 7, a brilliant idea. I read somewhere that if someone is acting obnoxious, trying to get attention, bragging about themselves, step aside, consider the reason the person is acting so desperate in their behavior, and tell yourself that it is sad that they have to brag and be self-centered, be rude and tactless, nag, use people, stuff down emotions like they do, and then keep your distance, detach, say a prayer for them, smile, and walk on, knowing that you dropped a ray of sunshine and loved the unlovable for a brief, safe, and short moment in time, because you know you deserve way better than being in the web of a truly disturbed person, a narcissist. Number 8, be ready to state consequences to a narcissist or any abuser. I did this acronym in the letters SELF for self, because the person you need to be taking care of and the reason why you get into these abusive relationships is that you're not taking care of yourself. So S in self stands for state the situation. I notice that you keep telling me you will treat me better in public, but it seems that you belittle me every chance you get to your friends. So that would be a situation. Employ a stand is E. This is not acceptable nor deserved by me. L is for list consequences, and there could be different consequences, but these are the ones that I chose. If this continues, I will not accompany you in public, will not continue our relationship, will inform your mother, will leave, whatever you decide. Whatever you decide to tell the narcissist. F. Letter F is follow through. The biggest and worst mistake, and this is what I said on that teaser video, the biggest and worst mistake every person I have ever met was in a narcissistic situation. Everyone has made this mistake, and that is threaten without follow through. Realize you are dealing with a big spoiled baby on one hand, but also a very crafty and belittling human being on the other. So when you say things like, if you keep saying mean things to me, I'm going to leave, but you keep on staying, eventually you will come to realize that the narcissist has your number. In their mind, they're thinking, oh, sure, she'll leave. She knows she can't make it without me. She ain't nothing but what I created her to be. Or, he's an ugly old son of a gun. No woman in her right mind would hook up with that loser. And you may even hear them say out loud eventually, as my ex-husband did, leave? Yeah, how many times have you said that? I know you won't do it, or you'll be back. I'm not falling for that. Who would want you? A woman with 4 kids? Who's going to take you all in? You're nuts. Now get in here and make my dinner now and be the wife you're supposed to be. Thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you got something out of this.